Hello and good morning to all joining us via Zoom in our Facebook live stream. Welcome to the Center for Enlightenment's exploration of the spiritual teachings, Jewels from Jane Elizabeth. Each Sunday will be a free-flowing adventure with teachings by Jane Elizabeth Hart, facilitated by certified Center for Enlightenment teachers. We will be working with topics found on our website at cfenlightenment.org. Today's topic, what is spiritual love? Greg Barrett will be the facilitator for this lesson. Greg is a certified teacher for the Center for Enlightenment and longtime student of Jane Hart, studying with her for over 35 years. Jane is the author of Spiritual Power Tools, Support for Your Soul, master teacher, and founder of the Center for Enlightenment. Today's course will be live streamed via Facebook. A recording will be sent out with the weekly reflection so you can access it anytime. In addition to the Sunday courses, there will be a question and answer discussion on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. A link for these sessions will also be posted in the chat room. We are active on Facebook and X. Come check us out, share your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. It would also be a great support to like the postings that resonate with you. We also invite you to visit our website at cfenlightenment.org. There you will find additional self-study lessons, talks, videos, or you can search for specific topics to support your expansion in consciousness. So let's just sit back, allow yourself to move into the silence, and let's just take a deep breath and begin our journey with the prescription for spiritual alignment.
Let's move into our hearts, that seat of the soul where we can feel the love that truly we are. So just close your eyes and move there with me. We are aligned with the presence of God within. We are protected by God's love, wisdom, knowledge, and grace. The God consciousness within helps us discover more about who we are. Thank you, God, for the gift of spiritual intuition. Thank you, God, for aligning our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds. We are grateful. Amen. We are continuing our exploration of love and looking at the difference between hard love and easy love, between spiritual love and human love. Now, humans love conditionally, and that's part of the evolutionary process of a human being. We love people who are good to us. We love people who love us back. We love people who are easy to love. But what do you do when you're dealing with somebody who's not? What do you do when the situation of love is hard? You probably in Sunday school or in some sermon way back heard somebody share the quote from Jesus about the difference between hard love and easy love, where he said something along the lines of, you've heard it said that you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And I'm telling you, you should instead love your enemy and hold them in prayer. And that was a challenge to those people because in their culture, in the culture that we have grown up in, we understand that we should be transactional with people, that there are people that are easy to love, and there are people who are very, very hard to love. So what's this love your enemies business? And what's this loving people who do harm to you? And he went on to say that if you just love the people who are good to you, what good is that? Don't even the ignorant people do that? Don't even the tax collectors do that? And I'm sure you got a chuckle from the audience when he said that. He was trying to share with them that there is a kind of love that is soul to soul, not ego to ego. And easy love is ego love. And it's part of who we are. It's wonderful when we have that response that we would love to have, when we get our needs met, when people act the way we want them to act, when everybody thinks we're wonderful. and we get what we want. But what do you do when you're dealing with a difficult ego? How do you handle it? Ask yourself. Talk about in your mind, talk about the people in your life, think about the people in your life who are hard to love. Think about the people in your life right now or the people in the past. How do you love them? What do you do in a situation like that? It's fine to say, well, you should love them, but how do you deal with this? Well, the first thing is to ask yourself the question, where am I loving them from? So it isn't just who do you love, but where do you love from? Are you loving them from the level of the ego, which is the level of the third dimensional personality self that is all about selfish motivations and getting what you need, feeling comfortable, having pleasure, avoiding pain, all those things? There's another higher level. And as we move to that higher level, we understand that we're loving from the level of the soul. When we love soul to soul, we're no longer limited in our capacity to love. Our love is not transactional anymore. It isn't dependent on, conditional on what other people do for us or how they behave. That doesn't mean that we have to be victims or that we have to be doormats, but we're talking about the love itself. And we may act sometimes very strongly. Other times we may back away. Other times we may engage, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. There's an intuitive understanding of love. Love just loves. And that love in your heart is already there. But in order to access that love, that heart must be purified. And there are situations in your life that give you the opportunity to purify your heart. And those are often difficult situations. Think about some of those situations in your life that you judged for years and years to be detriments, terrible things. And now you look back and you say, oh, I learned something from that. Those are those purifying incidents in your life. And so the purpose of living on planet Earth is to learn how to love. And that moves our vibration, our energy, our consciousness, expands it to the level where we are in our higher self. The lower self is the ego, and the lower self loves conditionally. The lower self loves transactionally. The lower self wants something back, wants to get its needs met. The higher self loves unconditionally. The higher self loves without limits, without circumstances, without consideration. Again, you can set boundaries in love. You can say no in love, but not to say hell no. You're saying no because it's for the highest good of the other person. Perhaps that other person is creating karma for themselves, meaning they're doing things that are going to rebound on them in terms of their soul, in their behavior. And so there are times that you take action. There are times that you withdraw from situations. There are times that you take care of things. But there are also other times when you learn hard love, and sometimes some wonderful things can come out of it. I spent 40 years as a minister, and I had many very difficult situations. Somebody once said that being a minister is like being a Rorschach test, an ink blot test. People, they look at you and they project onto you whatever is going on in their soul. That's true for all of us, though, isn't it? People in your life that inexplicably treated you certain ways, both positive and negative, and you didn't understand why. It had to do with what was going on inside of them, sometimes from past lives with you, and sometimes having to do with situations in their own lives. I'm thinking about one man. I was in a church once when this man, from the very moment I showed up, would come up to me after the services and just say something really cutting and really hurtful. And it was jarring at first because I'd never interacted with this guy. My first reaction was self-justification and self-righteousness. Well, how dare he talk to me that way? Why, I haven't even done anything to make him mad at me. why would he do this? And all the kinds of things that my ego wanted to justify in order to deal with him on his ego. You see, I was trying to love him ego to ego, and that just does not work. Well, I realized that I just had to take a breath, and I just would go into my heart as best I could, just be aware of my heart. And I didn't have to do a lot to set boundaries with this guy because he was satisfied with just coming up to me and saying something and then walking away. So I just figured anytime he's going to walk up to me, I would just take a breath. He would say his thing, move on, and then I would have the opportunity to do my forgiveness work. At that time, I understood how to work with the tools in the Spiritual Power Tools book of forgiveness, the 7-step method, the journaling. And so I was able to process it. Well, this happened week after week and month after month until one time he walked up to me with a sheaf of papers and he handed them to me and he said, I want you to read this, with a very stern look on his face, and walked away. Well, I figured there was going to be something in there that was going to be some kind of indictment of something. I didn't know what it was going to be. But when I went home and read it, it was a very touching story. He was actually a professional writer and it was engaging. It was a story that opened my heart to compassion about how when he was a young boy in an organization for children that he had been molested as a child. And I thought, he's sharing with me where this pain comes from. He's trusted me. You see, I hung in there with him. And I guess he got to a point where he trusted me with this part of himself. Well, when I came back the next Sunday, he walked up to me afterwards and he said, did you read it? And I said, yes, I did. And he said, the leader who did that to me looked almost exactly like you. And he was letting me know where this came from. And as we talked about this and as we worked with it, we ended up going out to lunch. We ended up being good friends. And it was a whole shift that took place. Now, not everybody's going to do that. In other words, if we love people with our spiritual love from soul to soul, we aren't necessarily getting a transactional result that we may be looking for. In other words, you don't love people soul to soul, that is, from your heart without conditions, in order to get them to do anything, because people will do whatever they're going to do with that love. And sometimes they just put it in their spiritual bank account, and you may never know the benefit of your loving them. In fact, that's often the case, but sometimes it shows up like that. In another situation, I had a woman who would always be very snippy, very difficult with me. And then one day she walked up to me and she said, my ex-husband's name was Gregory and he looked just like you. Again, it was that same kind of situation. And I had taught a class on forgiveness and she had used the spiritual power tool of the 7 steps method and forgiven this ex-husband of hers. And she then was able to engage with me. And I ended up hiring her and putting her on the staff. Again, you don't always get a result like that, but you always get the highest and best possible outcome. So ask yourself, where am I loving from? Am I loving from my ego or am I loving from my soul? My ego is conditional and wants something from that person, if only just to get off my case. And maybe that's not in the cards for them because everyone has free will. But sometimes some rather remarkable things can come. In order to develop that kind of love, the soul to soul love, we've got to have a purified heart. We've got to have a heart. Doesn't mean we've got to be perfect and all lofty and all spiritual, but we have to be able to have our hearts open enough so that we can experience the love that knows how to love. The love that is in your heart right now knows how to love. It knows when to be firm, when to say no, when to engage. It knows how to love. Love knows how to love, just as the sun that shines knows how to shine, just as the rain that falls knows how to fall. And these things happen unconditionally. And the love in your heart is also unconditional. But you have to have a purified heart in order for this to take place. I remember when I met with Jane maybe 30 years ago, and she looked at me and she said, "You've got a wall of concrete around your heart, and you've put it up there over many, many lifetimes. I'm going to have to go in through the back door and help you take it down." And the process of taking down the walls of the heart, the process of purifying the heart, is a process that often includes confronting and challenging the blocks and the defenses, the self righteousness and the judgment that we use in order to keep ourselves, quote, safe. It's to keep our ego from being triggered. And so we have to go through sometimes some situations to teach us how to love in difficult circumstances. As much as I wanted in my 40 years of ministry to have wonderful congregations that would treat me great, I remember being in an area of extremely high education, and the people were extremely intellectual, and it was oh my gosh, it was just wonderful. But I don't think I learned a whole lot about love there. A subsequent church where I followed someone who was the exact opposite of me was where I really learned more about love. And the woman who was before me, again, it was a woman. I'm a man. She was more heart centered. I was more intellectual. She had very, she was very single. I had a family, and the people in the congregation responded as you would expect. It was a hard adjustment for a lot of people. But in that situation, I learned more about love than if I'd gone to a place where I thought I was being loved, where I could just feel all comfortable and all la la and nice. So again, look at your life, and it helps you to redefine as you look back on your life. Those situations where you felt, gosh, that wasn't fair, that wasn't right. So again, it doesn't mean that you don't set boundaries or take steps if it's necessary, if it's for the highest good. But it isn't a defensive or a self-righteous action. It comes from love. It's soul to soul. And sometimes in your prayer, when you're dealing with this, just asking how do I love this soul? I don't know how to love this soul. God, I don't know how to love this soul. Higher self, out of body teachers, help me. I don't know how to do this. Help me to do this. And what you'll find, I've always found that it opens up the door where I can begin to take down my defenses, to purify my heart, and to experience looking at things from a different place. In those two situations, I I really didn't know what to do, but I did ask for help, and I did my spiritual work. I had taken that man up the 7 steps. That woman I hadn't, because she was just snippy with me, but I at least did not retaliate or feel self-righteous about it. Well, maybe for a little bit, but then I was able to move past it. And so look at your life right now and ask yourself, how do I love the people who are there? Some of them are easy to love, and some of them are hard to love. Some of them, you can love them more on an ego level, and that's part of life. But some of them, you have to move into your higher self. You have to move into that soul essence of you, your soul nature, in order to have the capacity to love those people. And how do you lift up into your soul? Well, you've got to get to know your soul. And that means meditation. That means taking the time to feed your soul with walks in nature or experiences where you're not just entertaining yourself or going after the circumstances or being a workaholic, that the circumstances that feed your ego, but moving into your soul nature, moving into your awareness of the quieting your mind so that your heart can come forward, quieting your mind in meditation, quieting your mind in just taking your life more slowly, slowing down your mind at the very least. Because then the heart, which is always there, the love that's in your heart is always there, can come forward. Help me to love the soul. I don't know how to love the soul, but help me to love the soul. One of the questions that I've asked many times has been, what does this soul need from me? What does this soul need? And sometimes, and this is a challenging exercise, you might try it in your journaling work. Journaling, just visualize that person and just say, what do you need from me, soul? And just sometimes I write, I don't know. And then I just start writing. This exercise may work for you, or doing a visualization. One method that I used years ago was somebody said to set up two chairs facing each other, sit in one chair and talk as your soul to their soul, and then sit in their chair and talk back, and then move from chair to chair. That's a very physical way of doing it. I haven't done that in a long time, but maybe that's a way to get in touch with it for you. Whatever it is, the idea is to not try to deal with it with your head, with your intellect, trying to figure out with self-justification and defensiveness and all the tools of the ego tools, how to get what you want and get it over with them. Love is unconditional. If I had demanded that those two people had behaved in a certain way, well, I wouldn't have been able to sit there in a relatively non-defensive way so that they would open up to me and it could shift. I remember probably the one work situation that was the most difficult that I'd ever dealt with was when I walked into a situation where they had gone through 4 ministers in 11 months. And my ego had a very high opinion of itself. And I'm just going to treat everybody this way and they're going to respond that way. Well, my first day at work, I knew I was in trouble where the office administrator, who I hadn't met, she wasn't there during my interview, looked at me and said, "The sharks are circling." And when I had questioned her about it, she ended up being, how do I put it, not particularly open to my being there. And there were other people in that situation as well. And I have to tell you, this is before I understood about spiritual power tools, before I had these tools. And so I just had to slog through it. And I got through it, but it took me years uh, to process that experience. And I was able to get through it, and you could say it was successful, but it's so much easier now when in subsequent situations that also were difficult, I was able to take the people up the 7 steps, to take my own expectations, my own minister who expected everybody to love me the way I was loving them, and that self-righteous part of myself up the 7 steps, where I was able to do the forgiveness work. And I really implore you to take your spiritual power tools book out whenever you reach that situation where it's hard to love somebody, and go into it and find out how you can work with the 7 steps to release those people so that you let go of your expectations and your attachments and the conditions that you put on love. After I'd learned the 7-step method, I remember having a man in a church who was very he was very withdrawn, and he just would stand by himself, and people really didn't talk to him much. So I thought it would be this is a spiritual ego speaking here, but my spiritual ego was going to draw him out and make him feel good. Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have reached out to him, and that's fine. But it turned out that he interpreted my doing this, my engaging him and asking him questions and talking with him, as bullying him. And that I was like the kids when he was in middle school who would beat him up on the playground. And how he came to that conclusion, I can only imagine. But he went from person to person and told them how horribly I was abusing him and terrible things. And some people bought into it based on their own internal experience. But when it got back to me, I didn't know what to do. And so I took him up the 7 steps. I worked through my own expectations, and I had to work through my own feelings of anger and self-righteousness and how dare he and this isn't justice and all those kind of things to get to the point where I could have some compassion on this soul. And in that situation, I did reach out to him with love, and he chose to move on. And that was a good situation for him because he wasn't going to create any more negative karma for himself, whatever pain he was going through. So it shows up differently in different circumstances. You might get clear and purify, do the purification work of your heart through forgiveness and the 7 steps, and find that the person responds in a way that is pleasing to your ego. And sometimes they're going to respond in a very different way. You cannot control that because every soul has free will. As I shared last week, the famous quote from Jesus where he said, "The sun shines on the just and the unjust alike, the rain falls on the good and the bad." Love just loves. It's without conditions. It's without any attachments or ties. And this is all easy for me to say. It's hard won. It's something that is part of the curriculum of life itself. If life's purpose is to teach us how to love, then those situations that we have judged as, quote, bad up till now are actually the most valuable situations in our lives. As I've heard Jane say many times, it was the making of me. And these are the situations that we find the gold of the soul, the gold of the heart, and we take that with us when we're finished with this lifetime into our next experience. Spiritual love doesn't try to get anything from anyone. It's not transactional. And as our hearts are gradually purified, we're given more and more capacity, a greater capacity to love, because the concrete is taken down, the walls are taken down around the heart, and we have a greater ability to know how to love. Let's watch Jane as she talks to us about how to love in very difficult situations and how to love unconditionally. And at the end of this video, she's going to lead you in a meditation. And I hope that you're able to sit in a quiet place so that the end of this meditation can move you into that essence of your heart that is the source of all love.
You see, there's so many facets to love. God created this third dimension so that we'd learn to love and support. And what we've done is turned it around. And if he sends me flowers for Valentine's Day, then I'm loved. No. And yes. You see what the dilemma is here? No and yes. That is an expression of love. And that's a wonderful way of showing love. But if those flowers are given because they want something from you, they want you to bake them chocolate cookies or something, or they want all kinds of things from you, then it's not given in love. It has a tainting to it. Whatever you do in love, do it from a pure heart. And then that brought me to another whole subject. What in heaven's name is a pure heart? Purity. What is a pure heart? It's giving unconditionally, forgetting thyself in the midst of giving. You know, it's not about letting other people walk all over you either. We don't let our children walk all over us. We shouldn't. We need to help them to understand. And other people in our life, we can't let them walk all over us, because if we allow that, we are creating really bad karma for them and for ourselves. My job, my desire of my heart is to get you off the karmic law and not create more karma for you. That's what I want for you. I want to get you out of that law, and you can get out of that law because there's forgiveness here along with that law. Forgive thyself, forgive others. But you can't let them walk on you, because you're creating a very bad vacuum of unlove. But you can't go around screaming and yelling at them because your needs aren't met. That's not love either. That's not, but being there in support and understanding what that soul is really trying to tell you. If you happen to be a manager and you are managing other people, look at them as souls evolving. How can you best tap into the things that they need from you in support of what they're doing this lifetime? That's love. That's the essence of love. That's what God does. He supports us all the time in making better choices for ourselves, because God wants us out of the karmic law in the third dimension. Wants us to live in the higher dimension of self. And when I realized that God wasn't going to fill my heart with more beautiful cars or more money, no, God wasn't going to fulfill that. Oh, God, give me a better job. I will give you a karmic job that will help you grow. Well, that's not the job I want. I want something really easy, where I was effortless. That's interesting, God says. Ooh, an effortless job. Not going to learn anything, so you can keep your comfort zone? This is not what this school is about. It's about facing those challenges and becoming more of who you are. That's loving yourself, facing those channels and those people that are coming into your life to help you to grow. Look at everybody in your life as somebody that God has sent to you to love and to support in some way. That doesn't mean sit down and let them take advantage of you, because that's not love either, as I explained. But be there for them. Figure out what is it that's really going on in their life. You see, they live in the opposites, and they see everything black and white, love and hate. You who stand beyond the opposites and are looking into the life of opposites, into your parentheses in eternity, you're looking at this, and they are stuck in it. They are stuck in the glue of the opposites. How can you help them out of the opposites and help yourself out of the opposites at the same time? How can you do that? How is it possible? It's stopping. 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 Stop what you're doing. Stop. Think about what you're doing. Take a moment to think about your life and the people in your life. How can you serve them? What can you do? How can you really love them? And then say, God, teach me about love. I am not going to fulfill anything but you in my heart. And then with you in my heart, I can learn to love more. Desire only God. Desire. This is what Jesus said, desire only God. Yogananda, Sai Baba, Meher Baba. Love God. Devote your life to God, the God essence of your beingness, not the God up in the sky that you want to worship and adore and not take in. You have to take it in, your whole beingness, and illuminate that part of you that has the full conscious awareness of God within you. But you have to stop what you're doing. Stop it. Stop it. And look at your life. What am I doing in my life to love others? Devote yourself to love this week. Ask your out-of-body teacher, please help me to understand more about love. I think I understand about love, and I've heard these things before, and I've read these things before, but there's another aspect of love I need to learn. And I am determined to learn that aspect. Help me to learn. Help me to look at my children, the people I work with, my neighbors, in a new way. In a new way. The essence of God will help you because it's right here, it's within you, and you have to empower it because God wants to help you. Your God essence wants to help you. And it says, I'm going to let you fill it up with anything but your true self. I'm not going to let you stick another relationship in there, a better relationship, somebody that's going to love you and take care of you. And then there comes that time when they're not taking care of you as well as you thought they should. So let's just dump them and find somebody else who'll do a better job. That just got you lots of marriages and lots of divorces and lots more karma to do in other lifetimes. As I said, my job is to help you out of the third dimension, and that means off the karmic law. So let us just take a moment now and take a deep breath and just come with me on a little journey. So close your eyes. Close your eyes and be one with me. Be one with your God self. Your God self. We are moving into that infinite intelligence, the great creator of the universe that created us. We're moving into that vibration and that energy. And say thank you, thank you, thank you, God, for waking us up to new love. And this is Valentine's week, the week of love. I will begin a practice. I will begin a practice. And I'm saying this for each one of you that is listening to me. I'm praying with you. asking for new revelations to come forth in your consciousness about love. And since this week is about love, you're going to be reminded of this on television, on greeting cards, or wonderful boxes of candy at the candy store, heart-shaped with all kinds of goodies. And open our heart to learn to love more, to be more, and to move out of the opposites, the karmic law that has kept us stuck for so many eons of time. You see, we have to desire to get off the law. But we have to understand how the law worked in our life. And that's a spiritual journey on itself. That's real love. If love is the answer, there is no question. And now take a deep breath and come back to the presence of this room, knowing that you are truly loved. Loved from the great heart of God that created you and gave you the capacity to love more than you ever thought possible. See you next week as we move forward on our wonderful journey together.
You've had many souls in your life who have taught you lessons in love. And some of them have been people with whom you had wonderful experiences in past lives. And it's an easy love. It's a love that is very comfortable. But some of them have been very challenging, perhaps because of things we can't even remember that we brought into this life with us, where it really challenges us to open up our hearts and to purify our hearts so that we have a capacity to love. I want to invite you to come on Thursday night at 7 p.m. for our question and answer support group. The link is in your chat room. It's also on the website. And here we can take our love lessons and share them with each other and talk about where we're stuck or talk about how we're responding to the curriculum of life, which is love itself. I want to also invite you to donate to the Center for Enlightenment. The link is in your chat room and also on the website. And this is a way to continue to do this work in support of the souls of humanity. And so, hope to see you on Thursday night. Certainly see you next Sunday. Bye for now.